So if God is telling us to rest, if Jesus is telling us to rest, he's implying, he's letting you know that all your needs are met. Let that sink in. For us who are anxious, all your needs are met. You're okay. You can lie down. Hey everyone, welcome to the Everything with Him podcast with your host, Enyanam. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I hope you guys are doing well. I know it's been a while since I posted, I think like 2 weeks. A lot has been going on. A lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of mix, a lot. But I just thank God that I'm able to come back and record another video for you guys. Thank you for bearing with me, and I thank you all for your continued support on this channel. All right, so let's hop on in today's video. So today's video is a really special one, and I really believe that it's going to bless you guys. The Lord has been teaching me a lot in this season of just trusting and being still in Him. And one thing that He really is teaching me is that, He is able to work within me without my help. Like, God is all powerful. He is self-sustaining. He is self-sufficient. And sometimes we forget that sometimes. And sometimes we feel like in order for God to do, we have to do something. And that is not always the case. God does require our obedience. He requires us to take action on His word because He works through us. But then there are some things that only His Spirit can do. Only God can do. And we're going to dive into that. And so, as you see from today's title, you do not have to do in order for God to do. Hear that. You don't have to do in order for God to do. And we're going to dive into what that actually means. So I was reading through Psalm 23. Psalm 23 is a very popular psalm in the Bible. And specifically, we're going to look at verses 1 to 3. So I have my laptop here, so I'm going to be checking my notes here. So Psalm 23, 1 to 3. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for His name's sake. So this is a Psalm of David. And here David is describing himself as a sheep and describing the Lord as his shepherd. So one thing that stood out to me is that sheep, they, are in the fields, right? And sheep graze in the grass, right? They eat in the grass. And the good shepherd, God, leads us to this place of abundance, this green pasture where we graze, where we eat, right? And so I want us to understand that these green pastures that God is leading to us is a place of abundance, is a place where we can eat, where we can enjoy the abundance. Okay. And He also leads us into still waters. So if you think of, being thirsty, right? And you need a cool drink, God leads you to that cool drink. He leads you to the still waters, right? So as I was meditating on this, the Holy Spirit asked me a question. Why do we sit down to eat? Now, I know that sounds like what? Like, of course we sit down to eat. But I think it's really interesting in how the Holy Spirit broke this down for me, right? Why do we sit down to eat? So typically we sit down at a table or, on the floor in some other cultures, but usually we're in a resting position when we're eating. So eating is a restful activity. If you're up and about, it's going to be kind of hard to eat. Usually you're still when you're eating, right? And, eating involves digestion. And when you're up and about, it's hard for you to properly digest your food. So I want you to keep that in mind. So to really emphasize that idea that we sit down, that eating is a restful activity, the Holy Spirit took me to when Jesus fed the 5,000. So we're going to go into John 6. So Jesus is feeding the 5,000. And before Jesus feeds them, he tells them to sit down. Now, I read Jesus feeding the 5,000 in each gospel. It's recorded in each gospel. And in each gospel, it says that Jesus told them to sit down before he fed them. And I think that's important because when we're studying our Bible, we have to take notice of things. Words are not there just for decoration. And when things are repeated multiple times, it's for a reason, it's to highlight. And as I was noticing that, the Holy Spirit was like highlighting that to me, that Jesus is telling them to sit down before they're being fed. So Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass, seeing the green pastures in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. So he told them to have a seat. And then the Bible records for us that there was plenty of grass. I'm just seeing the comparison to the green pastures, right? And Jesus leading us to the green pastures to be fed, right? Okay. And to even emphasize that more, I love the Bible. Okay. In the Gospel of Mark, when he records Jesus feeding the 5,000, he says, let's look at Mark 6:34. When Jesus landed and saw the large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like a sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. Like they were like a sheep without shepherd. So imagine this. We're trying to see the connection between Psalm 23 and Jesus feeding the 5,000, right? He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters, right? David is seeing himself as a sheep being fed, being led by God. And here, Jesus is being the good shepherd, feeding these sheep, this large crowd in the green pastures. And he's telling them to sit down, right? Making me lay down in these green pastures, right? Right? And so I was like, there is an importance in us sitting down to be fed. There's an importance of us resting in order to be fed. That's what I was understanding. Then the Holy Spirit asked me another question. What happens to our bodies when we eat? And again, this is to really try to get us to understand that we don't always have to be up and about for God to do what he needs to do, that there's so much that can happen when we're at rest, right? So what is happening when we're at rest? What is happening when we're eating? Okay. Now, this part is for you bioscience people. It's for everybody, but I really think it's going to really resonate with you bioscience people. I took anatomy how many years ago? But one thing we talked about is the nervous system, okay? And specifically, we learned about two types of nervous systems. So there's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So we're going to dive into those things right now. So we're going to talk about the parasympathetic nervous system. All right, put on your science caps real quick, okay? So, your parasympathetic nervous system is a network of nerves that relaxes your body after periods of stress or danger, okay? It also helps to run life sustaining processes like digestion during times where you feel safe and relaxed. Okay, so I'm getting this from an article. So, informally, the parasympathetic nervous system is called rest and digest because those are the functions that it's responsible for. So, notice these are a network of nerves that operate when your body is at rest. That's when the parasympathetic nervous system takes over. Meaning, if you're not at rest, the functions that this system is responsible for will not occur. Okay. All right, continuing. Your parasympathetic nervous system is part of your autonomic nervous system, as it is responsible for functions that you do not have to think about to control. Okay, so this includes your heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, urination, sweating, and other functions. Wow. So this is an automatic thing that your body does without your control, without you thinking. Your body regulates your blood pressure, your heart rate, your digestion without your control. We're going somewhere, okay? We're going somewhere with this, all right? So now we're going to go to the sympathetic nervous system. So your sympathetic is the opposite. It's your fight or flight response, right? It's also part of your autonomic nervous system. And this takes the lead when your safety and survival are at risk. So when you are at danger, right? When we talk about having adrenaline and you get this supernatural strength out of nowhere, that's the sympathetic nervous system. If this system is operating for too long, it actually can cause strain on the body. Okay. So these two systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, offset each other, right? And this is so that the body has balance, right? You don't want to be on too much on one side and too much on the other side. And that's so good because your body is regulating this on its own automatically. And I just can't help but think about God, okay? And so we're talking about God being the good shepherd and us being the sheep, right? God knows what we need. He knows when we've been operating in the sympathetic, in the fight or flight for too long, and it's starting to damage our souls, right? And so he being the good shepherd, knowing what we need is like you need a rest. You need to have the parasympathetic nervous system take control, right? And so that's what he does, right? He calls us to rest when we've been weary. He calls us to eat when we've been hungry. Jesus tells us in Matthew 11:28-30, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So that is what we need to do when we've been stressed out, when we've been weary. We need to come to Him. He knows what to give us rest for our souls. So, in continuing, with this article, it says your parasympathetic nervous system also manages the activity in organs throughout your body when you feel calm and safe. So I think that's really important that this parasympathetic nervous system is operating at when your body's at rest. So this means that this system will not operate when you're not at rest. So your blood sugar won't be regulated, your digestion, your heart rate, your breathing will not be regulated when you're not rest. There's certain things that only can take place when you're at rest. That's the point. And these are life-sustaining functions. These are things that must be regulated in order for you to continue living. That's important. Rest is so important, especially in this culture where everybody's always on the grind. Everybody's always go, 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 go. We miss the life saving importance of resting. Your body even knows that. Now, I was, trying to study Psalm 23, right? And I think it's important for us to really study the life of sheep because it's a giving same, you know? So I was reading from the Enduring Word. There's this excerpt from Film Keller, and it says that sheep do not lie down easily and will not unless four conditions are met. Because they are timid, they will not lie down. If they are afraid, because they are social animals, they will not lie down if there's friction among the sheep. If flies or parasites trouble them, they will not lay down. Finally, if sheep are anxious about food or hungry, they will not lie down. Rest comes because the shepherd has dealt with the fear, the friction, the flies, and the famine. Okay, okay. So if those four conditions are not met, the sheep are not going to lie down. David said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." He knows my needs are already met, so I can lie down. You have to know that all your needs are met in order to lie down. Rest comes after you knowing that you are safe and secure. You can't rest unless you know that. In order for us to rest, it comes with an understanding that all my needs are taken care of. Okay? So if God is telling us to rest, if Jesus is telling us to rest, he's implying, he's letting you know that all your needs are met. Let that sink in. For us who are anxious, all your needs are met. You're okay. You can lie down. I think this is sobering. Hebrews 4:8-11 says, "Now if Joshua had succeeded in giving them this rest, God will not have spoken about another day of rest still to come." So there is a special rest still waiting for the people of God. For all who have entered into God's rest have rested from their labors, just as God did after creating the world. So let us do our best to enter into that rest. But if we disobey God as the people of Israel did, we'll fall. What is it saying? Rest is a command. God has a rest for us. God rested after he created the world. It is finished, right? Jesus on the cross. Everything is paid for. You're good. Rest now. Enter into that rest. It's a command. We have to obey and rest. Us resting shows that we believe that Jesus finished the work on the cross for us. Our worrying shows a lack of faith and trust in God. So, this message is really for us who think that we have to do in order for God to do. That's not the case. He's telling us, rest. I'll take care of you. I'll feed you. I have provided everything that you need. And he's able to work within us. Think about the nervous system that we talked about. This is operating without your control, without your response. And that's just your body. So imagine the Holy Spirit inside of you. Imagine what he is doing on his own, without your help, without your control. Ephesians 3:20 says, "Now unto him who is able to do immeasurably more than what we can ask, think, or imagine, according to his power at work within us." Philippians 2:13 says, "For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill his good purpose." God is able to work within you, sis. God is able to work within you, bro, inside of you without your help. Rest and feed off of the Lord, feed off of Jesus Christ. You have to understand that all of your needs have been met, that he's already taken care of it. And you can be still, right? There'll be a time to work, but it's going to come from a place of rest, not of a place of fear. And so I really hope that this video blesses you. I really hope it gives you the understanding that God is able to work within your rest. Allow him to feed you, allow him to restore your soul. So if this video blessed you, please like and share it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.